All right, so we got some ultra lightweight stuff here. We got the brass Esbit, okay? We've got the stainless Esbit, okay? We've got some yellow heat, and we've got the Esbit solid fuel. All right, so, and to give you some perspective on how big it is, we've got a beer can, okay? And we've also got a peanut lighter, all right? So, all right, now, first things first, okay, the stainless is, by itself, is pretty light. The brass is heavier than the stainless, obviously. It's a little bit heavier. The other kind of serious issue with it is the snuffer. The snuffer is kind of frail. You know, if you're used to... the quality of this brass Esbit is very good, but it's not the same kind of device as you would buy from other camping companies. You know, it's not easy to get the snuffer off the top. Like, you can't do it with one hand, first of all. Okay, so I just took the snuffer off. Also, the the tin lid on here that regulates the temperature, it's kind of difficult to move, and basically it bent right away. As soon as I got it, you see how it's bent up slightly? Okay, now Esbit knows that this thing bends, and that basically allows a little bit more air in there to prevent the flame from going out, but when you close it, okay, it kind of snaps. You see how it's bent up a little? That happened within the first 10 seconds of owning it, okay? This is kind of a flimsy device, but it does clip back together, all right? So you see that? It does close. It kind of snaps back together, and it can be used as a snuffer to put the flame out. But this whole device at the top, it's difficult to get off. It kind of snaps on there, and then the tin temperature regulator on the top, that can bend. It's like very, very flimsy. I mean, it just takes some getting used to. Be careful with this thing when you first get it. Okay, now as far as fuel, the number one reason people use the solid cubes fuel is because of weight. Now, this is $8, and it's kind of heavy. It's like, you know, it's getting lighter as I use it. I use 2 of them, and it already feels a little bit lighter, but yeah, this is a little bit heavier, you know, but this is $2.50. 3 of these with tax cost me $8, and 1 of these boxes cost me $8. This is lighter, you know, the solid fuel. This box is a little bit lighter than, yeah, this is a little bit heavier. If I feel this, yeah, it's, you know, it's liquid. It's about the same as any other type of liquid. It's kind of heavy. Okay, so now when I compare the weight of a little bit of yellow heat in here in the brass Esbit in comparison to 1 cube, yeah, there's no comparison. I mean, obviously the brass Esbit is you know, it's still pretty light. That's light, and it does burn for longer. But yeah, this is obviously lighter. Just 1 of these is lighter. You know, it's burning. I mean, it's not easy to, the top, the lid on the Esbit stove and the snuffer on the Esbit stove, they're not easy to unscrew and take off once you put it inside of the stainless Esbit, but as you can see, it does work, and it's obviously going to give me some more time cooking than than one of these solid fuel cubes. These solid fuel cubes last about 10-15 minutes. And this is obviously going to burn for longer than that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to put the snuffer on and regulate the temperature of the flame while it's inside the stainless. Okay, so check that out. That's with the temperature regulator on there. And it's still lit, okay? But the flame is getting kind of small. I think a little bit of wind might even put that out, but yeah, it's still lit. I mean, the temperature regulator, it's difficult to use. It gets hot right away. You're going to need a cotton t-shirt nearby to use as like an oven mitt. All this stuff gets hot. Like if I take this off, okay, it lights back up. Put the temperature regulator on, and you can see it kind of, eventually the flame will go down, but it stays lit. So one of the ideas that I had was to make a heater, maybe take like a tin, like an Altoids tin, and put some steel wool and maybe some oil in it, and place it on here in my vestibule to keep my tent warm. Obviously, that's dangerous. This stuff is highly flammable and pretty wild. It creates a pretty wild flame. So, okay, so I'm not sure what else I would say about this product. I have another YouTube video where I show that it cooks chicken. You know, I cook some chicken and with just one of these solid fuel cubes. This is a lot more flame than one of those solid fuel cubes, and if you can see in there, there's still a ton of fuel left. I've been sitting here for at least 10 minutes, and I don't see the fuel evaporating at all. It looks like there's still the same amount of fuel in there. And I can put this on here and regulate the flame, get the flame to go down. Now, the issue here is that you can't really cook with this handle sticking out. You can't fold the handle in because this thing gets hot and there's a flame there. The handle has to be sticking out in order to utilize the snuffer. And so you can't really put anything on here. You can't like warm coffee or warm food. You've got to go full blast and take this thing off if you want to cook. But if you wanted to stay, one of the things that this does is you don't need to light it again. You know, you don't need to get out your lighter and figure out how to light it. You kind of need to have some fuel on the edge of the brass Esbit in order to get it lit. And that might be too much to worry about. And so this way you kind of have a heat source going all the time. You don't have to light it again. And it's just kind of sitting there waiting for you to use. If people are eating and they're not ready to make some coffee or whatever, you can wait a minute. You can eat, let this kind of idle, come back, take the snuffer off, and it's still lit. And from what I can tell, it's still got more or less approximately the same amount of yellow heat is in there as when we started. I mean, I don't see a significant depletion in the fuel. So, I was thinking of making a video where I would kick this thing over and see how bad the flame spreads across the dirt or whatever. But, this is a pretty wild flame. I more or less could guarantee you that safety is a definite issue with this. This yellow heat is very flammable. This is a hot flame, okay? It puts off a lot of BTUs of heat. Yellow heat supposedly makes less smoke and more heat, more BTUs of heat than any other rubbing alcohol, basically. It's an alcohol-based fuel, but it burns hot, so there's really no getting around it. This stuff is hot. It's not really safe. It's an issue to think about. Yeah, it's going to cook some food, but you've got to be responsible about about how this is used. So let's see if I can snuff it out. This thing is burning hot right now. Let's see if I can get it closed without touching it. Dude, sorry. Just swore on my YouTube video, but yeah, it's too hot. I don't know if I can get this thing turned off. Let's see. Ooh, good Lord. Okay, how's that? Oh, it's out. Okay, so I was still able to get it out. My snuffer's slightly bent, but that was enough to put the flame out. The snuffer's hot. The brass Esbit stove is hot. The stainless isn't. The stainless is hot, but not hot enough to burn you. Yeah. The stainless is a nice device. This doesn't really get too hot. You can really break this down and put it away right after cooking. The brass is not the same story. It's pretty hot. I'm not afraid to touch it. So there it is.